Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is Gabrielle Ray and I present cases of unsolved homicides, missing persons, and the unidentified. Today I'll be presenting you an unidentified persons case, which is the Bibb County John Doe, also known in NamUs as UP 13483. He was found on March 27, 1961 in Bibb County, Alabama. He was a white male and his age group was determined as adolescent. His age range ranges from 13 to 16, and his estimated year of death was 1961. His height was 5'6" to 5'8", and he weighed approximately 120 pounds. He had a recognizable face with a 4-inch scar on his right ankle and a half-inch crescent scar on his upper right forehead. Investigators say that he may have walked with a limp due to some circumstances unknown, but he was wearing a Timex wristwatch, had a bag with several shirts and pants, brown plastic wallet with no ID, and a pack of Pall Mall cigarettes with a South Carolina tax stamp. His clothing was unknown. He had a tattoo that was speculated to have been a homemade tattoo that said RY plus love on his left arm. But the tattoo could have also said RY plus love, RY in love, or R plus Y in love. And some people argue that the tattoo could have said RK instead of RY. He was found in the Cahaba River near River Bend. He was a hitchhiker who died in a crash when the vehicle he was being escorted in collided with a bridge rail and plunged into the Cahaba River. He drowned, but the driver, James White, survived the incident. He was picked up on Alabama Highway 25, south of Wilton, Alabama. James White was driving home to Cottondale, Alabama along Riverbend Road when he picked up the hitchhiker. He was told by the hitchhiker that he ran away from his parents, and his parents had just gotten divorced. He stated that his only two options for his future included going off to the U.S. Navy or going into an orphanage. The boy never stated his name, but stated that he ran away after the separation, but he wasn't in the car long enough to tell any more of his story. He was discovered minutes after his death, and his cause of death was a broken neck. His hand was also broken in 2 places. James lost control of the car, which ended up with the car plummeting 250 feet into 20 feet of water. He may have been heading up north, and some speculate that he may have been heading up to San Diego. When they pulled the car out of the water, his body was still in the back seat. His body was kept in the Bibb County morgue for about 2 weeks and exhausted all efforts to identify him and find his family. A woman from Huntsville thought it was her child, but discrepancies in eye color determined it was not her child. And an elderly woman, who had gray hair and was heavy-set, spent more time than others viewing the body and returned a second day in a row. She stayed at a local motel but was gone by the time authorities could ask for her records, and neither women have been identified. And also, one man came in to view the body and ended up having a heart attack, but it was concluded that it was not his son. His funeral service was held at Jack Lee Funeral Home, and the Lee family paid for his service. He was buried in Centerville, Alabama, at the 4-Point Cemetery on Mill Street, with money raised and donated by communities for the funeral. People from across the country came in hopes that it was their missing loved one, but still, he was never identified. 50 to 75 people came to the funeral, and possibly even more. Many people from around the country sent flowers and also came for the funeral service. It was also reported in some papers that there was a photo of a boy and a girl with the inscription, "Think of me always. Remember how we used to go places together." But the people in this photo were never identified. I am actually kind of unsure as to how they would find this picture, though. I've only seen it on about one or two sources that I will link in the description box because I'm not quite sure if this is true. But how would they have found the picture if he drowned? Wouldn't the picture be ruined? But then again, maybe it was kept in the wallet or in his bag in the wallet, which didn't get very wet with the water quite yet because the police arrived right away, as James White did call the cops and get help for this boy pretty quickly. His headstone stands with only the word "unknown." A monument was created with an engraving of his face, but vandals destroyed the image, which couldn't be replaced. The community rallied over this young boy, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in 2016 paid for his exhumation. He was reburied after taking new DNA samples in hopes that forensic technology would be able to identify him. The DNA was sent to the University of North Texas DNA lab, but it was unfortunately not a success, and still to this day he remains unidentified. His DNA, though, was put on file for future determination and a possible match. The case ended up in every newspaper across the country at some point. Jim Oakley, a longtime resident of Bibb County, always wondered about him and ended up writing columns over the years and ended up being one of the people that helped bury him. "We want closure to this case. Does he have any living relatives?" asks Deputy Coroner of Bibb County, Scott Cox. This case is one of the oldest cases in Alabama and one of the oldest that the center itself has taken on. "We still hope that one day we will solve this mystery," says Sheriff Keith Hanna. His DNA has been submitted. His fingerprints are available, but unfortunately his dentals are unavailable. And that concludes the case of Bibb County John Doe. In my opinion, I just think that all the Jane Doe cases are so heartbreaking. And the fact of the matter is that not only are they deceased, but nobody knows who they are. They don't have a name, and not to mention they don't have a voice. They can't tell what happened or who they are. And with all the advances in DNA and all the new technology that's been advanced and has been coming to light, I am hoping that one day he and all the other Jane and John Does will be identified. Just look at, Rainbow Falls Jane Doe and Tammy Alexander and all of the other cases that started out as Jane or John Doe cases that have been identified in the coming years. I definitely have faith in the criminal justice system, and I think that one day he will have a name and he will then have a voice as to who he is and exactly what his story was, because this case really intrigued me, and it has been one of those cases that has stayed in my mind over the past couple of years. That's why I definitely wanted my first unidentified case to be the Bibb County John Doe. And it's just so crazy to me that, this car crash must have happened very quickly, because he barely got any of his story out to Mr. White. And that right there tells me that this crash must have happened very quickly and hopefully painlessly. But unfortunately, his neck was broken, and the crash I hate to say it, but I have to just hope that his death was instant and quick and painless, because one of my worst fears are drowning. So I really hope that he didn't suffer as much as we think that he did. And it just baffles me as to how, a family member or somebody can't identify him. I understand that, yes, because he was at first a runaway, possibly the family could think that he's just living his life somewhere and out of contact with them. But there comes a time when, you don't hear from somebody in X amount of years or months even, and you wonder, where's my child? And you never know, these parents in this family may have been looking for him, but they just weren't looking in the right places, and that just breaks my heart. I just hope by putting his case out there that maybe it'll trigger a memory in somebody's mind thinking, hey, I recognize that face, or I know that person, and I haven't spoken to them in years, and I haven't seen them since we were teens, and possibly could jog somebody's memory and remind them that, this person is unidentified and he has a name. We just don't know it yet. If you or anybody you know has any information on the case of Bibb County John Doe, please call the Alabama Department of Forensic Science at 334-676-5292. I hope nothing more than this case to be solved one day, and I really am just praying for his family, and I am praying for him as a whole, because nobody deserves to be buried in an unmarked grave, and nobody deserves to have their headstone engraved as unknown, because they were somebody. They are a person, and they at one point had family, friends, and people who cared about them. And it's just a shame that, nobody can identify him. And maybe one day he will be identified, and that is all we can hope for. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful night.